Okay, we've now got, sorry, Assembly Member Clarke, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just want to take a step back because I think what's always been apparent to me as somebody who represents the largest Jewish population in the country is the time you've spent with the Jewish community, whether that's before terrorist attacks of October the 7th or after. I've been in Barnet with you when you've walked alongside us with the police. I've visited synagogues with you. I know you've had Seder dinners with local families. It's those sorts of actions that show to me what you do with every other London community is that you're with them, you connect with them, and you're with them at all times. And I think this conversation has been really disappointing, that it seems to me that some members around this table have decided to highlight one community and use that as some sort of political football, and I think it's profoundly unfair. But moving on from that, I really want to thank you and your office, because immediately following that horrific terrorist incident in Manchester, I had a phone call from your office. Barry Rawlings, the leader of Barnet Council, had a phone call from your office to check in, to see what more do we need in Barnet, because you knew it was important, and it is important. But I'm coming on to my question. The following morning, I was out for a walk with the police in Golders Green with Sarah Sackman, the local MP, and with Councillor Sarah Conway, who's our lead member for community safety in Barnet. And the three of us walked with police for, I don't know, probably a couple of hours, walking past Jewish sites, but also walking Golders Green High Street, where there's a number of charities and shops, and, you know, that's where people are. And what really struck me was with how many people stopped their cars, how many people stopped us in the street just to thank the police officers for being there. And the following evening, I joined a local shul for Shabbat prayers. And the same thing happened. It was person after person just stopping, thanking the police for being there. And so I wonder if you would join me in thanking the police for stepping up immediately. A lot of them cancelled annual leave. They changed their working patterns. The police changed where they were going to be in those days following that terrorist attack, because they knew that those people, the Jewish community, would be feeling unsafe, and that there was also possibly a threat to them. But that's what they did. They stepped up, they stepped out, and they were there. And it really struck me just how many people stopped to thank them.
Well, thanks for your comments. I spent a lot of time this week with the leader of Barnet Council, in fact yesterday, because the biggest Jewish community between Tel Aviv and New York is in Barnet. A huge community. For obvious reason, there's a heightened sense of fear. And by the way, I'm not divulging confidences. After every terror attack, there's a fear of a copycat. Terror attack, increased field policing is so important. And also, by the way, she'll know, because of the history Jewish people have, they know the need for additional security because they can't rely upon the state. History tells them that. And that's one of the reasons why the Community Security Trust was set up, and they do a brilliant job. She will also know from work in Barnet, the CST has given advice to Muslim communities, synagogues given advice to mosques, how they can help each other to keep other places of worship safe as well. And she will also be aware that in her wonderful community of Barnet, you had Muslim representatives also going to show a hand of friendship to Jewish communities because they understood the fear there was. Wouldn't it have been far better to talk about that rather than fueling division, as some members of the Assembly appeared to want to do? I'm also quite clear, though, about this. You know, the police may be imperfect, there may be institutional problems in the police service, but I see on a daily basis the difference they make to communities like hers, where people feel safer when they see a police officer. But the Commissioner himself was out and about. I think he went to shul as well. I think it's Haji, in relation to which God he worships, but that's another story. But he was there to show solidarity, but also to show the importance of security to that community.
Thank you for that.
Okay, on this particular topic, is there any more Assembly members that need to come in? Okay, then I'm going to move to the final area of the oral update, call on Assembly Member Giorgio to ask the Mayor a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last but not least, as always with me, Mr. Mayor, firstly, can I thank you for your oral update? And I really don't want to get onto the politics of this. I know I disagree vehemently on the Newtown draft allocation for Cruise Hill and Vicarage Farm. And Mr Mayor, the reason for my questions is because Enfield Labour Council has not been honest with the public and not revealed many of the details, and the first we had all heard of it was when the MHCLG announcement had come, and I think it was your interview on ITV. So can I just start with, when were you made aware of Enfield's proposals for a new town at Cruise Hill and Vicarage Farm?
I can't remember the date, but I can write to the member in relation to this. I met with the representatives from the independent task force. We can share the date. They visited some of the long lists in London. They then provided the list of 12. And I met with them in City Hall, and we can provide the date in relation to that. And they'd been on site visits, and I'm not sure the dates, but we can let you know.
I'd be grateful. The next following line of questioning is because lots of residents in Enfield are concerned this was not really done in an open and transparent manner. So my next question is, did the Labour leader of Enfield Council, Ergin Erbil, lobby you to support this in advance of your statements?
We're lobbied all the time by people. I'm not specific. Can I write to them that? Because basically, there are lots of areas in London that were on the long list of places to be a town proposal, and I'm sure the council would be involved in those. I'm speaking generally.
No, thank you.
I can't skip
the reason I ask is because there's been 2 recent pictures of you with Councillor Erbil, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure you get along very well. There was one just before the announcement, and there was another one at Labour Party conference before the announcement. And I appreciate you have lots of conversations, and as this was a private one, I'm not asking you to reveal any state secrets, but was this discussed at Labour Party conference between you and members of the council at Enfield?
I congratulated Councillor Erbil for the great news that his council was one of the winners. I mean, lots and lots of very unhappy council leaders across the country who weren't successful in getting their areas as part of the New Towns task force. I think his assiduous work must have paid off, because he was a winner when lots of others were losers.
Thank you for that response, Mr Mayor. Did Clarke, the Labour MP for Enfield North, lobby you on this, or has she expressed any opinion since the announcement?
Again, Chair, I wouldn't personally know about lobbying of the office and stuff, but I'm sure we can write to the member.
My next question, I appreciate we're both obsessed with planning, so I don't really want to get into a long back and forth on this. But is it your intention for the new town at Cruise Hill and Vicarage Farm to be a full-blown MDC?
I don't think any details have been worked out. My understanding is that there'll now be some consultation work taking place to assess the recommendations with a strategic environmental assessment. There'll then be a draft proposal from the government. I don't think the government set out whether it's a council-led scheme or a DC. I know they're trying to make it easier for DCs.
So MHCLG have effectively said they are looking to do an MDC along those lines. So this is why I asked the question, because in your statements in your interview, once the announcement occurred, you effectively were looking to take control of the scheme. And I'm not quibbling about that. As I say, this isn't about the politics of it. This is just about the technical nature. Also, the council has alluded to the fact, and Councillor Erbil himself has said that he would like, or is implying that it will be, an MDC. So it would just be good to get some clarity before the announcement as to what your intentions are before we get a go-ahead.
My understanding, Chair, again, apologies, I'm not more specific and I'm not being evasive, is the delivery vehicle hasn't been worked out yet in relation to whether it's the borough-led delivery vehicle or whether it's a DC. He'll be aware. There has been noises made from the government about they're in favour of DCs if it leads to expedited development. There simply isn't, as I understand it, and I will write to him, a decision made what the delivery vehicle is going to be for this.
But you must have a personal preference, you know, whether to be a DC, an MDC, or for it to be council-led. Surely, you know, you would want to have full control over this, wouldn't you? I'm not encouraging it either way, by the way. I'm asking the question.
I think the question is a fair question. I've got no views. It depends on the councils. There are some schemes that cross borough boundaries where it makes more sense to be DC. Old Common being good one. There's, I think, 3 or 4 boroughs involved. It's quite complicated on schemes that are neighbouring a borough because the benefits seem both. Nine Elms is a good example, which Lambeth and Wandsworth. So it depends on the geography of the scheme. I just don't know enough about this particular scheme to have a view in relation to this. By the way, the Thamesmead scheme, I think, crosses 2 boroughs. So, but speaking generally without the details, I couldn't answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, there's been a lot of chat, obviously, because this will be a significant change. As I say, you know, I'm completely opposed to these plans. I know you're very pro. But we will lose 1,000 jobs at Cruise Hill. And a lot of the chat amongst residents is there is been the possibility of landowners around the site being donors to the Labour Party. And I was just hoping you could put an end to that today.
I've got no idea who's a donor and who's not a donor to the Labour Party. What I do know is, generally speaking, the idea is to increase support for businesses, to increase growth, and to increase retention. If you think about a new town with, you know, circa 10,000 or 24,000 homes, not only is there jobs in terms of the construction, but think about the business, the footfall for businesses in and around there. I just simply don't know about.
No, thank you.
Chair. And if I may, I just want to reflect for a moment on the tone of this discussion, because I think sometimes, in conversations like these, we risk losing sight of the human reality behind the headlines. As someone who represents one of the most diverse communities in this city, I've seen firsthand how fear and uncertainty affect ordinary families. And what has always stood out to me about your leadership is not simply the statements made from City Hall, but the presence you've shown on the ground, in communities, speaking directly with people, listening to their concerns, and standing alongside them in difficult moments. I've personally witnessed that. I've seen you visit community centers, places of worship, schools, and local organizations long before these issues dominated national debate. And I think that matters because trust is built through consistency, not through political gestures made only when cameras are present. So I do think it's disappointing when complex community concerns are reduced to political point scoring, because ultimately, the people affected deserve better than that. Following the recent incident in our borough, I remember receiving calls almost immediately from local residents, faith leaders, business owners, and youth organizations. Many were frightened, many were anxious, but what reassured them most was seeing visible support on the streets. The increased police presence made a real difference. I spent several hours walking through the town center alongside local officers, councillors, and community representatives, speaking with residents and shopkeepers. What struck me most was the number of people who stopped us simply to express gratitude. People rolled down car windows to thank officers. Shopkeepers came outside to shake hands. Families approached us just to say they felt safer seeing patrols in the area. And later that evening, when I attended prayers at a local place of worship, the same message kept coming up repeatedly. People wanted to know that their city stood with them. They wanted reassurance that their concerns were being heard and that their safety mattered. And I think that's why community engagement is so important during moments like this. It's not only about security measures, it's about maintaining confidence, trust, and unity across London. So my question to you is this. At a time when tensions can so easily divide communities and when misinformation spreads rapidly online, how do you believe City Hall, local councils, community leaders, and the police can continue working together to strengthen relationships between communities while also ensuring that every Londoner feels protected, respected, and able to live freely without fear?